Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome back to the next episode of our podcast, She Said What, where the four of us sit down and have unfiltered conversations about the modern landscape as women. So, as you can see, today we have a very, very special guest in honor of Pride Month. We have Mr. Alex Mathew here with us. Can we get a round of applause?
Yes, I'm so happy. Thank you so much, girls, for inviting me. It's an amazing time to actually share stories and tell people about the community. So thank you so much.
No problem. We're so honored to be having you here. So I think we should just start off with, can you just introduce yourself to our audience today?
So I'm not going to say like the usual stuff I say. So I am, Alex Mathew, also famously known as Maya the Drag Queen. If you want to know who is a drag queen, please Google. That's what I tell people. I identify myself as queer cis man, and I believe in individualism, gender equality, and feminism. I put all these ideas together and put it forth in my performance, and that's what I do.
Okay.
So that's a short bit.
So we all kind of know that you've been featured in Vogue, you've been featured in GQ. So we want to take it back a little and get to know what actually got you into drag. So how did it all start?
So, like I keep saying this, that when I was a child, I was a theater kid. My mom was also in the theater, but she didn't pursue it full time. Because she had to get married, have kids, and all of that. So, but then she introduced me to the theater world by making me watch Sound of Music and My Fair Lady. And I was like, okay, this is like really great productions, and I really want to be part of such productions. And with that, I was able to pursue trying to hone my talents when I was a kid. I did singing. I joined a cappella groups when I was studying in Bangalore, and be part of theater workshop, and all of that happened. And it was when I went to Hyderabad, post my MBA, when I went to Hyderabad to do my job, is when I was able to meet the theater community on one-on-one basis. And I didn't start off as an actor, immediately. It was basically I started with backstage work, and then from there I, moved into performing as an actor. Post Hyderabad, I got another job opportunity in Bangalore because I love Bangalore a lot. And I came here, and Bangalore theater scene had a sort of like an Anglican atmosphere. They were like, oh, you have this thick Mallu accent, which is not going with. I had actually a veteran actress actually tell me on my face that give me 6 months and I will actually neutralize your accent. And with that, the next thing I kept hearing is that, oh, you're not fitting into this role properly. You're not that masculine. You have a feminine demeanor. And with that, I was like, okay, you know what? I hear people actually telling about my weaknesses, but I don't see them as weaknesses. So that is when I felt like I was stagnant in roles I was getting. And I started watching movies, many movies, books, and I came across this movie called as Mrs. Doubtfire. And I was like, if Robin Williams, who invariably looks like a comedian and, looks like a man, can become a drag queen, I can be a drag queen too. And with that, I started doing research in many other drag queens. Like I started watching in the Indian movies where Kamala Hassan plays Chachi Chasobis. And then I went into London where I watched Dame Edna do her live talk show. Then RuPaul and RuPaul's Drag Race. Then it opened up a new world for me to watch that there are different kinds of drag or different kinds of drag queens and drag kings. So with that, I was like, hey, you know what? India needs, their taste of a drag queen. And with that, I started making this character, a Malayali woman from Kerala, in a village in Kerala, moving to Bangalore to live with the love of her life. And that's just a background story. It's nothing to do with Alex. I'm not married, nor am I, like people still ask me, oh, so you are married, right? I said, it's just a story. It's just a photo shoot. But then with that, I started performing in September 2014. I did my first performance, and since then I've never looked back. The next month, that is October 2014, I came out as a queer cis man to my parents and to the world. So yeah, this is the shortened version of how I found drag in its place. And I keep saying that drag actually yanked me out of the closet because drag made me comfortable with myself. So yeah.
Wow, so it's really clear that the entire journey that you've been on has been quite a long journey. And it's clear that your decision to become a drag queen is obviously a really important step in your life. How did the people around you, your friends and your family, how did they react to this decision?
So my family, my mother obviously was like, I don't care about your sexuality, but drag is not okay. And she didn't want me to perform drag again. My dad was like, sexuality is a sin, but drag is okay as long as you get paid for it. And for me, I was like, I have two opposite opinions of, from my parents. So I was like, I need to give them time and place for them to understand about my journey and what do I need out of this. Um, and we kept having all these phone calls where we were actually, either shouting at each other or there was moments of silence. It was almost for 1.5 years that we just did this. This was what is happening. Then it came to a point where we got to know that we're hurting each other, and they moved to Bangalore. This was in March 2016 that they moved here. And with that, they tried to, it was not like immediately they moved in and they got to know me. No, it was a step-by-step procedure. My mother, whenever I was showing her clips of the community or trying to make her understand, she was like, I'm very old-fashioned, and I believe only in the religion. She still believes it, but then she was going in that mode for the longest time. With that, I think it was when the repeal of Section 377 happened. My mother actually said, "Listen, if you are dating a guy, I would like you to actually date him for a year or so before you make a jump." So basically, she was giving me dating advice. So from where she was and to where she's now, it's a tremendous amount of like change for her to reach. Friends, thing is, I keep saying to everybody that friends who really matter to you, friends who really want to be with you and understand your journey will stay with you. You can't hold friendships. Like there are times when friendships are like chapters, and you have to say that there are times when you can't hold the chapter longer. You have to close the chapter. So there are friends who still stand by me. There are friends who still support me for what I do, and I still like them for who they are, because then I do the same thing for them as well. So this is what my friends and family, and also like in terms of my relatives, other than my close relatives, I honestly don't care about my other relatives because their job is they don't have anything to do with my life. So I just don't care hoots about them. Society, you know how society is. Log kya kahenge and all that shit. But you just do you. That's what.
Yeah. So clearly you've had to overcome a lot of obstacles to get where you are. And drag in India, as we know, is a fairly new and very evolving community. So do you have any advice for people who are hoping to enter the industry? And can you talk a little about your first job, what you learned from it, how you got it, and things like that?
Okay. So I'll start off with how I got the show. So there is a group where it's known as the Queer Arts Movement of India, and they were doing a lot more shows in Bangalore. So in the beginning, in 2014, and we had a really safe space called as the Hugging Tree. So they were actually very progressive. The rest of us was really progressive, and they were like, you know what, we want to feature more of the LGBT community, and that is how a lot of queer performers got a chance to perform. So with that, 2014, I was able to get that chance because through Queer Arts Movement of India. So for me, I'm happy, I'm grateful that I got the chance like that, and I was able to perform, because nowadays it's so difficult to get chances to perform. I see a lot of young drag queens who are still struggling to get opportunities, and it's like if you have only one place, it's even more a struggle to actually get a chance to perform there. So for me, I'm really extremely grateful, and it could be like seen as my privilege as well that I was able to work my way into that. what I would suggest these young drag performers, that is drag queens and drag kings, is that you put your content out there, irrespective of what quality it is. But if the quantity it is, if the quality is great, if you have got a great character and it speaks through the camera, it speaks on stage, then please put it out there in the internet, because that's what I've been doing. I've been putting most of my content in terms of pictures, in terms of videos, in terms of me performing with other drag queens, because to say that we are vibrant, we are thriving. I won't say surviving, we are thriving. And just the whole bit about why I love doing drag is because I love the art form so much. It's not because I get fame, I get money. I mean, fame and money will follow you when you put your heart and soul to it. So irrespective of what art form you do, it will follow. And that is exactly what I tell these young queens. So this is what you need to focus on: love of the art form.
Yeah. And I think your love with the art form really does like translate into your work, and we can see like how much passion you have for your work, especially through your drag alter ego Maya Ma. So can you tell us a little bit about like her backstory, how you formed her, and like what's the message that you're trying to spread through her?
So it's a quite a bit of a story. Like I said that she was born to a fisher, like a couple which was more of a fisherwoman and a fisherman, and that she has a child. It was a very abusive child. Like, not that the parents were abusive to her. She could see that both the parents are fighting with each other. So, and she couldn't stand the fact that why the parents were at loggerheads, and she wanted a better life for her. She wanted to go and live her life. She wanted to perform, so she started performing in a resort when she grew up, and she met the love of her life in the resort. And the love of her life said, "Listen, why don't you just you get better opportunities in Bangalore, so move to Bangalore." And she went to her parents and said, "Listen, I found this guy." But her parents were like, "You know what? I think you should just marry to another fisherman. That would be, the best thing for you." And she's like, "No, that's not going to happen." And she and her father have fought, actually, and it led to she beating up her father. I mean, as abusive as it sounds. And the mother saw this, and the mother actually just gave whatever money to Maya and told her to leave the village immediately. So Maya takes whatever money and she leaves to Bangalore and gets married to the guy, that the love of her life, irrespective of religion, sexuality, caste, creed, any of that. She gets married to the guy and then settles down and still keeps performing. So this is the background story that I made of Maya. There are bits and pieces that I took it from what happened with my mom's friends and how my mother came and actually helped them, at the time of need and all that. So a lot of those, I just put it in these stories, and it came to a point where people believe that this is my story. Like, Maya's background story is my story. And I'm like, no, it isn't. It's just a freaking background story. A lot of people have been like, "Oh, but you have involved caste, you have involved..." I'm like, no, I have not involved caste, I have not involved religion. There's nothing of those. Like, that's just not, they just enjoy the story. That's all. So this is my story in terms of Maya's background story. So yeah.
So you spoke about how a lot of people misunderstood your story, confusing it with yourself. So I just wanted to know, what was your vision when you created Maya Ma? Like, did you have any particular message that you wanted to give out to the audience? Anything like that?
So the ultimate message that I wanted to give out whenever I perform Maya is to tell people to just live for who they are. So if they want to be straight but yet vibrant with their dressing sense, like women who are straight but they want to wear pants and they want to wear a shirt and rock out, like in that look, or if a guy who's gender fluid but loves to wear a sari, can live their life. So ultimately, what I wanted to do as Maya was that, hey, I am Mayamma and I'm coming on stage as a drag queen dressed in a sari. If I can do it, you can do it too. Like that is the ultimate message that I wanted to give out, because ultimately that is something which has been missing in our society for the longest time. I wanted to break those gender stereotypes that uh, a sari only belongs to a woman, a shirt and pant only belongs to a guy. And I'm like, who put those rules? Who has put those rules? So ultimately, this whole Western gender constructs that has been imbibed into our society. Like I was recently telling someone that sari, the blouse, actually didn't exist till the Britishers said that, oh my God, we wear shirts, so you should wear something similar to that, and that is how blouse was invented. So, there are so many things that when we look back into our history, that we find out that, this is not how our ancestors were living. Our ancestors were free, and they were living their life basically, because there was no gender constructs. There was no sexuality was fluid back then. So if you go, even if you go to temples of Khajuraho, if you go, you will see the carvings actually depicted that people were actually living freely. So if the stone carvings of that long of a centuries depicts that, that means we were actually pushed down for who we are. We were actually seen as savages by the Britishers. So like we've been living our life, and we were really happy with what we were doing. Just that it's been so much of people trying to enforce their thinking on us, and you've been believing what they think is right, and that is wrong actually. So what I'm saying is just live your life out and just be yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's very clear that Indian culture is so vibrant, it's so deep, and it's been so heavily influenced by Western culture that we're losing elements of it. And it's really such a shame that more people don't get to see it. But anyway, moving on to the next topic. In times of the recent pandemic, a lot of things have changed and a lot of people are coping with it very differently. So how has the way that you perform and you work changed in times of like the COVID pandemic? And how are you coping with it? And how are you dealing with staying at home?
So I'm pretty sure you must have seen that meme where there is this whole there is this girl or a boy lying on bed and saying that my life is ruined. I don't know what to do. Like, so I was basically that, in the first few weeks of the lockdown which happened. I was like, oh my God, I won't get any sort of opportunities. But then, but it's within like 1 or 2 weeks after that that I started getting uh, people actually, saying, listen, I know this is horrible, but let's just work at it. Let's just do something with it. The first opportunity that I got was an online drag story hour. I really didn't have any great makeup then because my drag suitcase was in my room and I was at my parents' place. I was not able to even, travel because Ola and Uber had stopped as well. So I couldn't even go with my mother to take it as well because we had police officers actually stopping you and saying, where the hell are you going and all of that stuff. So I actually had to borrow my sister's makeup. Can you imagine? Even if the shade didn't match, I literally, like, it was almost like you got to make it work. And I actually did that. I did my shade. I look like a zombie from, from I was like awake suddenly from my coffin or whatever. But then I did it because that it was an opportunity. I got it, and with that, slowly I was able to do more and more, opportunities where I'm doing podcasts, where I'm being featured in many places. I'm putting old pictures and saying that TBT, and all of that. But then I'm putting content out there, So with that, then the lockdown relaxed, so I was able to go and get my suitcase back. And then I started, like, whatever money I was getting, I was investing on a phone holder, lights, then, like all of that stuff. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to, give up on the situation. I'll just work on the situation, make it better so that everybody knows that, hey, ultimately we all have to get through this. We all have to get through. So this is what I've been doing all this while in lockdown.
I think you've been coping with lockdown like quite well then, because you seem to be having a lot of like business ventures and things like that. And one of the things that we found after like shameless, I'm sorry, very shameless, but after hours of Instagram stalking, we found that you actually have a show called Chaya with Maya. So do you want to tell me like why you started it?
So what happened was, I think there was this whole online online debate about the community and not being able to understand it. And it was also during the time that Karan Johar refused to come out. He was like, I don't have to say that I have to come out. And then I'm like, dude, if you come out, it would be better for you and better for us. Just come out already. But then with that, I understood that people were not able to understand the community so well. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to feature celebrities. I'm going to feature people from the community and let them talk about their journey as human beings. Yes, their sexual identity or gender identity is part of them, but then talk about what they do in real life. Like I interviewed a DJ, I interviewed Kesha Suri, who was actually running a freaking like a empire, like so all of these people I wanted to show, like in Bitter. I even interviewed a theater personality, and he's also like one of those old people who came out in the longest, like in the 90s or 80s, that because that was really hard back then to come out, so I interviewed people by saying that, hey, there are different kinds of people and we need to really accept them for who they are, and and that is something which we need to focus upon. So that is my crux actually, because I wanted to be like, they're just people, just accept them for them being as people. So that is the reason why I started Chaya with Maya, to have conversations where people can start having normal conversations and they don't have to go into using homophobic and transphobic slurs to actually refer to them, but refer to them as people. So that is exactly why I started Chaya with Maya.
Yeah, so now it's time for a very typical interview question. Okay. So
Okay.
where do you see yourself in like 10 years? What do you think are your long-term goals, your dreams?
So in 10 years, I want to like be part of a movie or a web series or both. I would like to see myself there so that people understand me. Right now, what is happening right now is because of lack of people from legit people from the community, which has true representation. People are misunderstanding the community. The whole subject of stereotypes is being perpetuated um, in CDs, in movies, and it's really hurting our community. So I really want to be part of a movie or be part of a series where they actually show my representation and they show it beautifully. So that's what I see in 10 years. And also on the way to start an art school where art basically means different forms of art, where there's theater, music, there is more of what do you say, drag, different kinds of art forms. Because right now in our society, we live in a very patriarchal society where clerical jobs are seen as the forefront. Like being a doctor, being an engineer, being a chartered accountant is seen as, yes, these are the legit professions, while being an artist is not a legit profession. But actually, being an artist actually helps you in long term, while in terms of you developing your personality, you developing a different side of yourself, knowing yourself better. So ultimately I want to give that choice to children, because ultimately right now what is happening is children are not given that choice. Children are only given choice of being either of this, then you get easy money, you be MBA, you get my MBA from IIM or from some big college, and you get a really big package, and that's it, you settle for life. I think that is something which I would like to break and say that children, as the, you know, they can make their dreams come true. If I can make my dreams come true, like in my wildest dreams, I didn't know that I would be featured in Vogue. Like, even though I said, yeah, I'll be featured in Vogue someday, but then I was like, what? When that happened, I was like, what the hell, like that. So I want a child to dream freely and not being restricted by the limitations, and that is exactly what I want to do in the coming years. That build an art school. So yeah.
Yeah, I think what you do is just so powerful, and like the message that you're trying to send across is so inspiring, of just, be who you are and try to go for your dreams. And finally, like before we conclude, we have one final question, which is, how was your experience coming out as a queer person, and do you have any advice for those who are still in the closet?
I would say to the people who are still in the closet that, there are times when you're so frustrated that you really want to come out, but then after you come out, you realize that you're not independent. You don't have a place to actually go about, like a safe space to go about. There are so many things, and then you feel trapped. And I feel really bad for people like that, because it's like you don't have a choice of coming out. But then what I did was, 25 years of my life, I was actually, I was scared, I was confused, I didn't know what is happening, why I'm feeling like this. But then it was when I got to know the community that I realized this is my identity, this is where I stand. The more I understood about the communities, when I was like, hey, I'm ready to come out now. I'm ready to tell people more about my gender identity and my sexuality as well. So I would suggest the people, whoever is in the closet, to actually learn more about the community, see what spectrum you fit in, and then do, when is the right step to be taken, like the right place at the right time. Like for me, the right place and the right time was when my mother said, you can't perform drag again. I was like, I have to tell them now. This is the right time and the right place. And I shot an email that I've been working on for 6 months, because I was like, I can't send this email right now. Like, I felt like my gut was saying, don't send it now. Don't send it now. But then the moment, my mother said, no, you can't perform. The next day I went to office and I shot that email. And then I posted a status saying that, hey, I'm out, finally. And in this whole bit, I started even removing all my relatives as well from my Facebook. I was like, I don't need them. They're not paying my bills. I don't need them. And that is exactly what happened. So ultimately, what I want to say is that learn about the community, be strong, and keep up the hope. And always, always, always give love. Because we have hatred, so much of hatred in our community. It's overflowing at the moment. But then love liberates. Love isn't easy, but love liberates. And I would love you to actually focus on that. So that's what I want to say.
Your story, your message, it's so powerful and it's so inspirational. Thank you so much for being here with us today. It was such a pleasure talking to you. I think we have a lot to think about today, and I think our viewers, when they watch this, will have a lot to think about. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hopefully in 10 years, we'll all be sitting in a theater watching your big, watching you on the big screen.
I hope so as well. Yes. Thank you so much, girls. Thank you.
Like Inika and Risha and all of us just have the same sentiment. Your story is just so powerful, and you genuinely are just such an inspiration to so many people around India and soon around the world also, let's hope. And
Yeah.
we just want to wrap up this episode by wishing you a very, very happy Pride Month. We're so happy that you get to live your true identity, and that you're just really happy in what you do. And I think that's just so important, just being happy with who you are and what you're doing. And I think that's just such an inspiration to everybody. So I think that concludes today's episode, guys. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, then just text us on Instagram with our thoughts. We'll leave Alex Mathew's Instagram handle, everything in the description box below. Please go follow him. He has amazing content. Maya is beautiful, stunning. You should go check that out as well. And honestly, we did a lot of Instagram stalking. I think you should too. There's no harm.
Thank you so much, girls. Well, like,
Thank you so much.
I was in the verge of actually saying no to a lot of podcasts and videos, but then when I saw your content, I was like, oh my god, I have to work with these girls. I have to do this,
you,
and I was like,
Thank you.
and I was like, let's do this, you know. So I'm so happy. Thank you so much for considering me. You could have considered anybody, but you considered me. So I'm happy and I'm glad that you did that. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.